Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, good day to you, depending where you are in the world. Here it is 9:15 p.m. It's my nighttime devotion. We're reading from the devotional Lift Him Up. The title is Body and Mind Inseparable. The scripture reading comes from 1 Corinthians 3 verse 17. If any man defile the temple of God, him shall God destroy. For the temple of God is holy, which temple ye are. One of the strongest temptations that man has to meet is upon the point of appetite. Between the mind and the body, there is a mysterious and a wonderful relation. They react upon each other. To keep the body in a healthy condition, to develop its strength, that every part of the living machinery may act harmoniously, should be the first study of our life. To neglect the body is to neglect the mind. It cannot be to the glory of God for his children to have sickly bodies or dwarfed minds. To indulge the taste at the expense of health is a wicked abuse of the senses. The Redeemer of the world knew that the indulgence of appetite would bring physical debility and so deaden the perceptive organs, that sacred and eternal things would not be discerned. Christ knew that the world was given up to gluttony, and that this indulgence would pervert the moral powers. If the indulgence of appetite was so strong upon the race that, in order to break its power, the divine Son of God in behalf of man was required to fast nearly 6 weeks, what a work is before us, the Christians, in order that we may overcome even as Christ overcame. The strength of the temptation to indulge perverted appetite can be measured only by the inexpressible anguish of Christ in that long fast in the wilderness. Christ knew that in order to successfully carry forward the plan of salvation, he must commence the work of redeeming man just where ruin began. Adam fell by the indulgence of appetite. In order to impress upon man his obligations to obey the law of God, Christ began his work of redemption by reforming the physical habits of man. Intemperance in eating, even of food of the right quality, will have a prostrating influence upon the system and will blunt the keener and holier emotions. Strict temperance in eating and drinking is highly essential for the healthy preservation and vigorous exercise of all the functions of the body. The only safe course is to touch not, to taste not, to handle not. And we're talking about tea, coffee, wines, tobacco, drugs, alcohol. The necessity for the men of this generation to call to their aid the power of the will, strengthened by the grace of God, in order to withstand the temptations of Satan and resist the least indulgence of perverted appetite, is twice as great as it was several generations ago. The Redeemer of the world came from heaven to help man in his weakness, that in the power which Jesus came to bring him, he might become strong to overcome appetite and passion, and might be victor on every point. Everyone knows coffee. Most coffees, not every coffee, most coffees contain caffeine. They're also processed. Most know that most teas, the average teas you get, and I'm not talking about herbal teas or fruit teas, most of your morning teas and PG tips and all those kind of things contain caffeine. Wines contain alcohol. Tobacco, let's not go there, contains everything that you don't really need in your body. Drugs, I mean, there's all kinds of drugs these days. No good for your body, no good for your mind. Alcohol numbs your mind, it kills your organs. I'm glad to say I don't drink the generic teas, I only drink herbal teas. Don't touch coffee or wines or tobacco or drugs or alcoholic drinks. I did. Don't think I didn't. I was no saint. Still on. I stopped drinking alcohol 2005. I stopped smoking about the same time as well. Stopped drinking tea and coffee sometime soon after that. Can't really say I've ever been a drug taker. Wine, that's part of alcohol. God help me. God did help me to stop doing all these things. Because they're not healthy. They're not good for your mind. More importantly, your mind, because everything your body does many a time comes from the mind, but also from what you eat. But your thought process, your thinking, your perception is all very important to be positive, to be, if you can, holy. And I'm preaching to myself because I've gone through a trying last few months. And I'm hoping that it's going to be coming to a stop soon. Very trying few months. And it's it's brought a lot of negativity into my life, into my thinking. And I'm having to try and overcome that, to stop that, to reverse it, to expel it from my mind and from my whole being. But bear in mind, everything you consume in whatever way you do, smoking, drinking, eating, has a severe effect on your mind and your body, which are both interconnected. Bear that in mind. If you want to be more holy, you have to be more healthy.